Hey guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be diving into Premiere Pro, and I'm going to be running you through everything that you need to know as a beginner to be able to get started. Now, while I won't be diving into every tiny little effect, tool, and nitty-gritty detail that Premiere Pro has to offer, I will be making sure that by the end of today's video, you'll know how to create and export a pretty simple video to make sure you can start your video editing journey today. So with that being said, guys, let's dive into the laptop and let's get things started. All right, so depending on what computer you're using, opening Premiere Pro will probably be a little bit different, but we're going to be doing it the most generic way possible through Creative Cloud. So all you wanna do is open up Adobe Creative Cloud, make sure you have Premiere Pro downloaded and installed, and then in my shortcuts here, because I don't have that many apps going on, I can just click on Premiere Pro. If it's not here, you can just search it in Creative Cloud or head over to the apps bar here. But we're gonna click on Premiere Pro and we're gonna open it up. Once Premiere Pro is open, you'll be met with a screen just like this. And we're gonna head over to the left-hand side and we're gonna click on New Project. Now here is where we get to name our project. So for today, we'll just be calling this YouTube Test. And that is pretty much it. The project location, you get to decide where this is. So if you're editing just off and on SSDs, this would be a great place to put your project, but I'm gonna leave this standard and default for now. We've also got a load of stock footage in here that Adobe includes, but for me, we're not gonna be messing with this whatsoever. We're gonna be using all of our own stuff in just a little bit. So we're going to leave everything like normal and we're just gonna hit create in the bottom right corner. Okay, once you have created your project, here we are, this is Premiere Pro. Now things might be looking a little strange right now, but I promise you they'll start to make sense in just a little bit. So first things first, I wanna run you through why things might be looking a little different for you. First of all, you might be in this learning tab here, which is a little bit of a mess. So what we're gonna do is up in the top right corner, you have all your workspaces. Now you can click on assembly, and this is gonna take you to the most ideal, at least in my opinion, for Premiere Pro, the most ideal place to start piecing together your video. Then we've got the editing tab up here. We've got color, which obviously is all about color grading. We've got the effects tab where you can drag and drop a load of effects onto your clips. We've got audio, captions and graphics, revisions, and so on. But for now, all we're gonna be focusing on is assembly, editing, color, captions and graphics, I should say. So what you want to do is make your way over to the assembly tab here, and in the top left corner, we're making sure we are on the project bin. And in our project bin here, this is where everything is going to be stored for our project. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by creating a sequence. I'm going to right click in import media to start, and then I'm going to come down to new item and make my way over to sequence. Now, Premiere Pro has recently updated, so if you are just opening this for the first time, it should look a little something like this, and this is ideal. It was a huge mess before, but this is where you want to be at. All you have to do is come to UHD 4K, and this is if you're going to be editing in 4K. If not, HD 1080p, but for me, I edit everything in 4K because I shoot everything in 4K. And then I'm going to be selecting my 25 FPS timeline. If you shoot in 24 FPS or if you shoot in 30 FPS, use 24 or 30 FPS. As you can see, this is 24 and this is 30. And if you're shooting in 50 or 60 FPS and you want to slow down your footage, you've got to make sure if you're shooting in 50 FPS, you're creating a 25 FPS timeline, which means you'll be able to slow it down to half speed. I'll get into this a little bit later. And of course, if you're shooting in 60 FPS, I should say, you want to be making sure you're opening your sequence in a 30 FPS time frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Ultra HD 4K 25 FPS. Now here we can come over to settings. If you want to change your resolution, you can do so just in here, but everything for me, I just leave it as stock standard. It looks great. This is how it's meant to be. Adobe are the absolute masters at this. This is what we pay them to do. So we are just going to, first of all, rename our sequence. And what I usually do here for my main sequence is I will just call this exactly that, main sequence, and then I'm gonna hit OK. Now what that's done is now we have a black square here, we've got a black square here, and now we have a timeline. Now the sequence is gonna contain our entire edit and our entire video. So this is a very crucial step. So once our sequence is created, we've now got to get some audio and video in here. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna click on this new bin, which just gives me a new file, and I will call this test footage. I highly recommend to keep everything incredibly organized inside of your project bin. This makes sure everything just stays clean and tidy, and you can easily reference things when you need to. So let's say you were making a video with a few different locations in there, just document those locations in different bins and then drag and drop your footage into those bins accordingly. So we're gonna double click into here and then we're gonna open up Finder. Okay, so once you've located your footage in Finder or Windows File Explorer, this is what I do. I come in here and I'm going to just go through a few clips here. All right, so we're gonna use this clip. This is Luca here. And let's say we're gonna use these two clips. So I'm gonna select both of those and then just drag them into test footage. And now we've imported our clips into our project, and now the fun begins. Okay, so now let's get some footage into our timeline. So let's say we wanted this clip into our timeline. What we can do is we can just drag and drop it in like that, and we get the complete clip with the audio and video. But something that I do instead is I come over here. So I'm gonna double click on this, and you can double click on this one as well. And then you're gonna get a little preview window. So let's go back to this one. And what you can do here is you can move this little playhead just around like this, and then you can find the exact part of the clip you want to be putting into Premiere Pro, or into your timeline, I should say. Then you can find the exact part of the clip that you want to be putting into your timeline. So let's say it gets pretty smooth here. I can set my in point by pressing I, and then I can come to where I want it to end, press the O for setting my out point, and then I have the option to drag just the video onto the timeline, and let's zoom in here to make things a little bit bigger, or I can drag the audio into my timeline, and of course you could drag the audio somewhere else as well, or if I wanted both of them, I could simply drag and drop this in, but because we've already set the in and out points here, it's only going to bring the in and the out point of the clip that we set over in our preview window. So for now, I'm just going to leave things as is. I'm going to delete that audio video clip, and I'm going to drag this to the beginning of our timeline. We're going to do this here with this shot as well. So I'm just double clicking on this clip. So I'm going to start the clip here by pressing I, and then I'm going to come over here and press O once Luca's got the camera up to his face, and then I'm just dragging the video over, so just from here. Now, of course, you could just be dragging your entire clip over onto here and then cutting it up as is, but I find this way things keep very, very organized. So this is how I do it, and this is pretty much the whole assembly tab. All right, now let's move on to the editing side of things. So what we want to do is we want to come up to this workspace here, and we want to click on editing. Now, things have changed just a little bit. We've now got our timeline window over here. We've got our project bins over here, and now we have this panel here, our effects control panel. This is going to be fun. So I'm first going to run you through a handful of little tips, tricks, and tools that you're going to be using all the time throughout your editing career. Let's call it a career. First things first, let's say that you dragged and dropped a clip over here, and now we've got the video and audio, but you don't want the audio on this clip. Well, let's say you weren't doing it how I just showed you through the assembly tab by just dragging the video onto the timeline. What you can do is you can come over to the clip, make sure that it is selected by either just moving your playhead on top of it or clicking on the clip. And then you want to hit Command or Control on Windows, Command L, and that's going to unlink the clip. We can now go ahead and delete the audio or delete the video if we wanted to. Now, let's say we just wanted to reorganize things and maybe the audio was a little bit off. Well, because they're already unlinked, we can now move this around, no questions asked. I'm going to Command Z to undo that, or Control Z on Windows. Now, let's say that these clips were completely separate. We dragged them onto the timeline separately, but we wanted to link them back up. All we have to do now is click and drag a little box over the two clips, hit Command or Control on Windows and Command L, and now boom, now they're linked again. So if we delete that, it deletes everything. Something else you're going to be doing a load in Premiere Pro is cutting. Now, there are a few ways to cut. You can just move your playhead to where you want your cut to be and press K. I'm going to Command Z that because there's also another way to do it. You can come over to the left-hand side here on the little toolbar. You can get this razor tool, and then you can make a cut anywhere on the clip. So let's say we wanted it in the middle there. Boom. Delete that part of the clip, and we're good. We've just made a cut. Now, if you wanted to extend a clip, let's say you didn't drag enough of the clip onto the timeline, all you've got to do is come to the end or the start, wherever you wanted to drag more on, and you just click and drag your clip out like this. Now, the opposite works as well. If you wanted to shorten your clip, you can do that as well by just clicking and dragging the end of it there. Now, something that is done very, very commonly is speeding up footage or slowing down footage, and this is super simple to do. So all of this footage here that I'm dragging onto the timeline, our 25 FPS timeline was shot in 50 frames per second. So let's say we wanted to slow that down to half speed, so it still looks smooth and nice, but we get that beautiful slow motion goodness. We first want to right click on our footage here and then just go to speed/duration. Now here I can just type in 50% because I know I shot it at 50 frames per second, so I'm slowing it down by half, and just like this, I can hit enter, and now it's slowed down by half. Now let's say we wanted to speed it up. I'm going to right click again, speed and duration, and now I could hit 1000%. And as you can see, our clip got super small, and if we play that back, it's super quick. I'm going to Command Z that as well because I don't want either of those effects. Moving on to our effects control tab up in the top left corner. Let's say we wanted to zoom in a little bit on this clip. Well, all we have to do is adjust our scale. Let's say we made it to 120%. We're now punched in a little bit. You can also do the opposite if you wanted to. Let's say we wanted to come out to 80%. Of course, you're gonna get these black bars, but if you're importing, let's say 1080p footage into a 4K timeline, you're gonna look exactly like this, which is not ideal, and you're gonna have to change your scale to 200% if it's a 1080p clip and you want it to fill the frame, and that way it's gonna fill the frame. But for us, let's leave this at 120 as I liked it a little bit more zoomed in. And if I wanted to make sure that I was completely centered in the clip, I can use these positioning coordinates up here. I can move them left and right. The first number is gonna go left and right. The second number is gonna go up and down. And all I'm doing here is clicking and then moving my mouse left or right. You can also click in here and you can change things manually, just like that if you wanted to. But for me, I find this a little bit nicer to just do fine-tune movements. Another tool that I want to run you through is how to make audio louder or quieter. So let's drag this over here so we have an audio file to play with, and then we want to make sure it is selected. We're going to right click on our clip here, and then we're going to go down to audio gain. And this is where you can make things louder or quieter. So we're going to set the gain to, let's say for example, 10 decibels. And now our audio would be louder. I'm not going to play this for you because it's just wind and bird noises, so don't you worry about that. And of course, if you wanted to make it quieter as well, you can right click on here, come down to audio gain once again, and then you can make it, let's say, -10, hit enter, and now it's going to be extremely quiet. Of course, you have the audio levels on the right here, so as you can see, because we're at -10, nothing's going on. But if we Command Z that and then play our clip back, you can see we've got a little bit of movement here. If you are wondering what the ideal kind of audio level is, it's always going to be sitting at -6 for social media and for YouTube. Now, at this point, we're nearly done with all of the most commonly used little tools and tricks, but I want to show you one last trick before we move on. You can see here that our video is quite small, it's kind of compressed, and our audio is also super small as well. So let's say we wanted to see that on a bigger scale. All you want to do is come over to the left-hand side here, where you can see V1, V2, A1, A2, and then you just want to double click right where my mouse is, and then it's going to open up things and make them look a lot bigger. Let's take this clip for example, where we might be able to see a little bit more audio, and if we can't right now, let's just change this to 100 decibels. Okay, that's probably a little bit overkill, Zach. Let's bring this back to maybe 20 decibels. Okay, still not. Okay, there we go. Let's drag this clip out. Now we've got some audio here that we can see. So before, if we compressed it like that, it's incredibly hard to see what's going on, but if we double click, we can make it a little bit bigger. You can also resize these to your heart's content by just dragging this little slider up and down. But if you want to close it, all you have to do is double click and you're set. And you can also do the same with the video up here. And this gives you a little bit of a photo preview of what the clip is that you're looking at, which is very, very handy. But for now, we're going to close these. And that's pretty much it. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna quickly change this speed to 50% because this was shot at 50 frames per second. And I'm gonna do the same here as well. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm now gonna reorganize these so they are playing back to back, just like that. We might trim this one down a little bit to make it a similar length to this one, but also I think it just goes on a little bit too much. Just like that, cool, things are looking good. Let's move on to coloring. Okay, so in the top right-hand corner in our workspaces, we want to click on color. Now this is going to open up our Lumetri color tab, and this is where all of our exposure and color changes are going to be made. In our basic correction, we can set our white balance, our exposure, and our contrast levels. We're going to close that up. In our creative area right here is where we can apply LUTs, which are great. By the way, if you are looking for some LUTs to use on your footage and you like the look of my footage, by all means, go and check out the first link in the description. You can check out my cinematic LUT pack and you can use this code at checkout for a cheeky little discount. But anyway, moving on. Here we can change our curves, and this is where we're going to be making the biggest adjustments to the colors in our image. And we can also adjust our colors here and our contrast here. Moving into color wheels, this is where we can push and pull different colors into certain areas of the image. So let's say we wanted a little bit more blue in the shadows. We could just move this over into the blue area, and we're putting blue into our shadows. HSL secondary gets a little bit complicated. We're not going to dive into this. And then vignette just gives you a nice, more kind of isolated look onto your image. It kind of just darkens the corners, as you can see. We're going to Command Z that. So a lot of people are going to edit directly straight onto the clips, and that's what I do a lot of the time as well. But something that you can also do is we can come over to our little project bin here. By the way, it's always great to keep a project bin open, so you can always pull more clips into the timeline, or you can add more things. Or you can create adjustment layers, which is exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to right click in an area that doesn't have anything on it, and then we're going to come up to new item and we're going to click on adjustment layer. Now let's say if this was full and you didn't have anywhere to right click, you just want to come back to assembly and then click this little new item here, and then we can click adjustment layer. Now this is already set to our sequence settings, so our 4K sequence settings at 25 frames per second. So I'm just going to hit OK, and then I'm going to drag this on to our footage just like that. I'm going to trim it so it fits, and then we're going to come back to color. Now what an adjustment layer is pretty much anything that you do to this adjustment layer will be given to all the clips below. The only things that you can't do are transform things. So let's say if I zoomed in this adjustment layer, nothing's happening to my clip like that. That has to be done on the clip level, but on the adjustment layer level, let's just turn this back to 100. This is perfect for effects and also perfect for color grading, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So let's dive into basic correction here. What I'm going to do, since this was shot on a Canon camera in C-Log 3, I'm just going to be quickly, very quickly, making a few little adjustments here. So what I'm doing is I'm increasing the exposure, I'm increasing the highlights a little bit, and I'm decreasing the shadows to give back a little bit more contrast. I'm also going to warm this clip up just a little bit like that. We're then going to move into curves where we're going to drop the shadows just very quickly. By the way, this is definitely not a color grading tutorial. I'm just showing you how to quickly get a bit more of an improved look. If you are looking to have a complete color grading breakdown, I've uploaded plenty on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to be uploading a brand new fresh one in just a few days to go over all the 2024 changes. Okay, so now we are at this level here. Now, if you want to see a before and after of your color grade, you can click this little effects icon right next to Lumetri Color. That'll turn it off and then back on. Or you can come over here to the effects control and hit this effects, back off and back on. Now, something I'm quickly going to do here is I'm going to desaturate the greens, and I might also desaturate the blues as well, make things look a little bit nicer there. We're going to come back up to here, and then we're going to just increase the white balance just a little bit, increase the temperature, I should say. And then we're going to come to vignette. We're going to drop the vignette a little bit. And now if we hit before and after, like I said, very quick, definitely not polished, but it gives you a little bit of a rough idea of what you can do in the Lumetri color side of things. Now, if we come over to this clip here as well, because we've got the adjustment layer covering this clip, it's also color graded this clip as well. So what we can do here is we can turn it off and back on. And I don't think this is an ideal color grade for this. Of course, you can see the lighting conditions are completely different. This one is shooting into the light, and this one is shooting with the light. So what we can do here is we can hit C, which is going to get our little razor tool up, and we can cut this adjustment layer right there. And now the adjustment layers are completely different, and we can edit them individually. So I'm going to click on this adjustment layer to make sure this is the layer that I am affecting. I'm going to open up basic correction, and I'm just going to dial back the highlights, and I'm also going to dial back the exposure a little bit. Maybe increase the highlights just a touch. So now if we have a look at the settings here on this Lumetri color, on this adjustment layer, and then if I click on this adjustment layer, you can see they're completely different. They started out as one adjustment layer, but since we cut them in half and split them, now we can edit them individually. All right, so this is pretty much the basics of Lumetri color dialed in. This is where you're going to be making all of your changes to your colors and your exposure. All right, let's move on to some text. Let's say we wanted some text over this image. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come over to captions and graphics. Now, a little shortcut for this is just pressing T, and this is going to bring up our text cursor. We can now click anywhere on our main sequence, and we can just type in, say, Luca, in the rice, because we are currently in a rice terrace. And as you can see on the side here, our essential graphics tab, this has opened up all of our text option. If it doesn't look like this straight out of the gate, it might look a little bit like this. All we can do is just double click here, and now we can open up all our text editing. Now this is very similar to many text editors. If we wanted this, let's just first of all make sure that is covering our entire, I guess, sequence, if you will. Let's say if we wanted to center our text, we could click this, which is going to put it in the middle, and then this, which is going to put it in the middle on the horizontal level. So we first did the vertical, then the horizontal. And if we wanted to just move this around, we can also move it just like this. I'm going to hit Command Z there, and then we can also do it over here as well in our effects control. We can adjust the opacity here, and then since everything is highlighted, if we wanted to unhighlight it or for some reason it wasn't highlighted, we can just click here to make sure this is selected, and then hit Command on a Mac or Control on Windows, A, which is going to select the entirety of your text. And of course you can just drag and select like you would normally do any other place. And then we can come into here and we can select our fonts. So let's say we wanted to use Gotham. I love Gotham. We're gonna hit bold, and then we're gonna recenter this, as sometimes when you change the font, things change, sizes move. So we just wanna make sure it's always aligned in the middle. And then we can come down here and we can give it a little bit of a shadow. I'm just going to slide down here and we are gonna hit black for the shadow. Well, hit okay there. We're gonna increase the opacity just a little bit. Now I think things are looking fairly good. And then we have a load of other things that we can change inside of here. But for me, right now, I'm happy with this. The only thing I'm not happy with is this is over Luca's face. So I'm just going to move this just down there. And now we have a little bit of text on our video. Of course, you can do this multiple times if we wanted something else. All we have to do is press T, and then we just click here, and now we can type to our heart's content. But we're gonna delete that for now. And now if we play back our little clip, this is me, not Luca, but of course this is Luca. And this is pretty much everything we've got. All right, so we are getting to the end of our quick Premiere Pro tutorial for beginners. And the last thing that we wanna do is export our video. So let's say this is the video we wanna export. We're happy with this. We now wanna select the in and out points of where we wanna export. So let's say we wanted to export the entire thing. We just wanna make our way all the way to the start, press I. This sets our in point, just like our preview windows in the assembly tab. And then we can come to the end. Now it's a little bit finicky to get right to the end. So what you can do is you can use the up and down arrows, and this will move you to the nearest end or nearest start of a clip. So if I kept pressing up, it's gonna bring me to this start. If I kept pressing up again, and then if I press down and down, it'll get me to the end, and then I'm gonna press O. Now what you can do here is you can move up to the left-hand corner and hit export, or you can press Command on a Mac, Control on Windows, and M together. And now we open up this. So here we can change our file name. So let's just do YouTube test. The location here is where we're gonna be exporting our clip. All you've got to do is click this link, and then you can change where you're gonna be exporting to. The preset we wanna make sure is match source adaptive high bitrate. We're happy with that. And the format is going to be H.264, which gives us an MP4 readout. We can then open up video here. And of course you wanna make sure video is turned on. Audio is also turned on, and then effects and metadata are turned on. If you had any captions, which is something I didn't run you through, I just used text, which is fine. You don't need to worry about that. But if you had captions, you would just want to turn those on as well. But for now, we don't need those. So we're going to make sure that they're just turned off. So let's open up video, and then let's click more. Match source just means it's going to be matching your sequence settings. So leave that as is. You then want to make sure you click the little more thing right there, and then you can click render at maximum depth, render at maximum, use maximum render quality, and then we can come all the way down here. This should all be set to standard. And then here at the bitrate settings, we can hit CBR, and we're gonna set this to 30, and we're done. From here, we can now hit export. That is gonna export our clip, and that is more or less going to wrap up a very quick but hopefully handy tutorial on Premiere Pro for beginners. This is pretty much going to get you started, and this is the tutorial I wish I had when I started editing in Premiere Pro about 6 or 7 years ago. Goodness me, I've been here for a little while. But anyway, guys, that is going to wrap up today's video. I hope you've enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below if you did. If you're new around here, a subscribe would mean the absolute world, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.